realfaith.org.au.
The people were saying to us, what is it about you people? You are different. And we were able to hand, because we did have the use of the book of Luke in Arabic, and when people asked for it, we were handing it out. Asked them first of all if it was okay, and they were quite happy to receive them, although you can't just go around handing the Bible out there, you'd be shocked. But if they asked for it, we were giving it.
Welcome to Real Faith. Conversations about the impact faith has on our lives and the challenges we go through, helping us today and giving us hope for tomorrow. That's real people, real life, and real faith with Eric Scatterbo.
Well, last time we heard how in the early 1990s, Gloria Hardy decided to help the Kurdish people in northern Iraq after she learned about their desperate plight. She had seen news reports on TV of how their homes had been bombed by Saddam Hussein. Ironically, this all happened after she had felt that there was no way that God could possibly use a 51-year-old swim coach. But, as we heard, God had big plans for her that she could have never imagined. Today, we'll hear more of her adventures and how God uses her and her team to minister to the Kurdish people in northern Iraq. Once again, Gloria is joining us from her home in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. So you were doing odd projects, and in that culture, tell us about the time you kind of went against the culture and you told the guys what to do.
Yes.
Tell us about that
right.
time.
Yes, well, in that culture, women are just dirt. They're not respected at all. And they do all the hard work.
All the manual labor? Just the women are doing it?
Well, men do some manual labour, but the women are the ones that really they carry the load. And in one case, when we were helping them take sticks for their fires across this river on a raft, they were handing the sticks to the women to walk up this cliff. And there were loads of sticks, and quite a heavy load to have to walk up quite a sheer cliff.
Yeah.
And these women were up and down doing this. And there's the men just sitting down watching it.
Huh.
So I then got them in joking way to stand at different points up the cliff and then pass the sticks, the women pass the sticks onto the men. We got the sticks up via the men.
So they actually responded to your instruction,
they did.
Even though that's against the culture.
Yes, and because I later on found out, because different ones were saying to me, why do you think you were so successful in a lot of the stuff you're doing? And it was pointed out to me that they respect older people. And so that was in my favour.
Yeah, so you not only got them involved instead of just sitting and watching all the work being done, but you placed them strategically so they could just hand it one to the other to kind of make a chain and an efficient way of getting the sticks up the hill.
Yeah, and they all enjoyed themselves, so that was good too.
Didn't you get them singing too?
Oh, yes, we sang and we did all sorts of things, yeah.
Wow.
We made mud bricks, helped them build their homes again, yeah.
Now, what was some of the things that impressed you with their culture, even though they had very little?
I would say perhaps hospitality comes at the top of the list because they would give you the shirt off their back and they had nothing. And it was just amazing. We were warned because you go to a village and they want you to come in and eat. And we were warned not to eat too much because what happens, the men are all being fed with you and no women around. And then the women feed later if there is food left over.
Oh.
And they're the ones that prepare everything. Another wonderful, beautiful thing that happened, we went down when we were in the city of Zako. We went into a little chai shop. There's no hotels there because they don't drink beer, or there's no alcohol. And that's in Muslim faith. And we thought, well, we'll get a little cup of tea. And my friend and I were just sitting in there having our little cup of tea. And then we went to pay, and he said, oh, no, that man down there. And there was a man walking down the road quite a fair way on, and he'd already paid for us.
Oh, wow.
And, that that was amazing, we couldn't even go and say thank you to him.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So you were made to feel welcome there.
Oh, yeah. The Kurds, they welcomed us everywhere we went.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want us to go because we meant safety to them.
Mm-hmm. How is that? How did you mean safety to them?
Well, because we were there, they felt more secure. Yeah. But not that we could have done it. As it turned out, we couldn't do anything either. We had to go, which was very sad time for us because we didn't want to go, but we were forced to when we were attacked, and the UN had control in.
Mm-hmm. So while you were there, you could hear and see the fighting going on in the distance. Is that right? Yes. One thing that horrified me was at night time, you'd see these trucks loading young boys, maybe about 12, onto big trucks, and they had big Kalashnikov guns, and it was brothers often fighting against brothers, depending where they could get a little bit of money. And so the fathers were putting a Kalashnikov gun into their boys' hands and sending them off to war at night. And we just watched them load, and we thought, how many of them are going to come back, alive? Yeah. It was terrible, sad. Yeah.
And I had times where I was watching bombs coming out of planes, not quite over where we were, but over the mountains. They were bombing a group called PKK out of the mountains. And so I was attending to a little village, and we heard this plane just soaring, or many of them, soaring up into the air. And the people that we were with, they all ran, and we just stood there. We thought, what's going on? And next minute, the plane stopped, or sort of floated in the air, and the planes just dropped these bombs on the mountains. And we thought, this is unreal. You just can't believe it. Yeah.
I mean, you see that in movies, but you're seeing it in reality.
Yes.
Did you have any fear that they would drop bombs near you?
We did have a few near us, but I don't know. Looking at it now, I probably would be frightened, but I wasn't frightened then. No, it was where I needed to be.
God gave you a peace, as we mentioned earlier.
He did. He gave me peace, and the people were saying to us, what is it about you people? You are different. And we were able to because we did have the use of the book of Luke in Arabic. And when people asked for it, we were handing it out. I was handing a book to an elder in a village, asked them first of all if it was okay, and they were quite happy to receive them, although you can't just go around handing the Bible out there, you'd be shocked. But if they asked for it, we were giving it. Yeah, so we don't know the results of all of that,
but seeds were planted?
Yes, planting seeds, yeah.
And then also God was working on your heart in another area regarding healthcare. Tell us about that.
Yes. Oh, well, that day of the bombing, I was attending to children with shocking sort of scalp problems in their hair. It was just dreadful. And we had some ointment, which were very little ointment, and they had pink. A lot of people had what they call pink eye, which was like conjunctivitis, really. Yeah. And we did have a few tubes of that, and of course that's what made them think we were doctors. But I was cutting the hair off around these areas and just using salt and water to clean it up a bit and then put this ointment on. And they just thought that we were, we had miracles, which I think we did. We had those God behind it, and we're just cleaning up people, so they just thought we were doctors, And there was only one doctor not in these areas. There was no doctor at all. You had to go down to the main city for one doctor. Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah, terrible conditions for these people.
So that inspired you to get some medical training yourself?
No, well, in our primary healthcare course, which I wanted to do after this experience I had, we learned basic first aid things, and even doing injections and stuff like that, and even to save a life, to be able to pierce the throat, to get the air to them and that. But I don't know that I would have been able to continue to do that myself. But we learnt that, and we weren't really qualified so medically speaking, but we learnt how to do it if necessary. And we had a book called Where There Is No Doctor, and it's a great book. It's,
Oh, okay.
it helps anybody along if they don't know medical things.
So just to kind of sum up your time in Iraq, you went back and forth like every 6 months for several years, is that right?
Yeah, well, I was there for 6 months. Then I went home, realising I needed a primary health care course, which I did in Hawaii. And then I went back and I was given that a prophecy in Isaiah 61, and that almost came to fruition eventually.
What was the prophecy?
It says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord is anointed to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to blind up the brokenhearted and proclaim freedom for the captives. And it goes on, and it was just so much to a T of what I was, but that was really before I'd actually gone back again into Iraq in 95. And then I got involved, of course, with the prison.
Our guest today is once again Gloria Hardy, who's the author of the book, The Master's Touch, about the many adventures she's gone on serving the Lord. As we've been hearing, Gloria's sharing about her first big adventure when the Lord led her to minister to the Kurdish people in northern Iraq, even though this was a war-torn part of the world when she arrived there in the early 1990s. We'll hear more of Gloria's story when we return right here on Real Faith.
The Word for Today is Australia's most widely read daily devotional, designed to give you practical teaching to keep you focused on your relationship with Jesus. Read it online or subscribe to the free printed edition at thewordfortoday.com.au.
You're listening to Real Faith, conversations with real people about how God works in their lives. If you want to know more about integrating faith into your life, our website is realfaith.org.au. Just go to the website and you'll find helpful articles about the impact faith can have on your life. Once again, that's realfaith.org.au.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Scatabo, and today, once again, I'm chatting with Gloria Hardy, who's sharing about how the Lord led her to minister to the Kurdish people in northern Iraq, even though this was a war-torn part of the world when she arrived there in the early 1990s. Now here's more of Gloria sharing her story. So many things you were involved in. At one point, you visited a prison and you noticed that they couldn't go outside because, well, why couldn't they go outside? They're all stuck in one room inside.
Well, it used to be an old train station, I believe, but so it was built into a prison, and the wall of the actual exercise yard was not high enough, and I went to because when I first went into the prison, the director showed me right through. I actually went into the cells with all these men, 80 of them in one cell, and I could just walk along a little passage. There was just enough room for me to walk between them all, and they all had their little spot to sit on, and that's the only place they could move. And they had little plastic bags stuck up on the wall with their belongings in. And I went through the most disgusting situation there you could ever imagine. Even when I went in the front gate, the septic system wasn't working, and the system was up on the ground, and you could smell it. It was just everywhere, and the prisoners had scabies, and I ended up in being able to treat them for their scabies. And I said to the director, these people have got to get out of here into the sun for some exercise.
And get some fresh air.
And he wouldn't let them out because he said the wall wasn't high enough. And so I said, well, why don't you put some guards out there and they'll watch so many at a time? But he didn't trust his guards. So I thought, well, the only thing then is to get this wall built. And I did a lot of work in there, and ending up in getting the wall built and a beautiful exercise yard so they can get out and play ball. And the prisoners, they made things for me, and I got gifts, and it was amazing. I just ended up in tears, and my translator, he says, "What's the matter with you?" I couldn't control myself.
So you went back to Australia and raised the funds so they could build a higher wall? Is that it?
And within no time, I had the right money. It was just poured in. And I went back the next year in 1996. Mm-hmm. And actually, in 95, I went to the Deputy Prime Minister, and he went with me to the prison to have a look at everything that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. And he said, "We can't do too much unless you can raise half the funds." And I said, "Well, we'll do that." And I didn't know how I was going to do it. So that's when I went back to Australia and I raised the funds and got back again to him. And he went in there and with his army, he built the wall. And I was actually the one that was inside the prison, and all the prisoners were out having a wonderful time on the outside.
Wow, that must have been a wonderful feeling, knowing that you could improve so many people's lives.
I made so many prison friends. It was just beautiful. I thought, if only I could speak Arabic, But they had nothing, and so I decided I'd put in a little library there. And there was a Christian crowd that we stayed with there who were, they weren't Kurdish, but they're Chaldeans. Mm-hmm. And they were Christian, of course, and they helped me buy books that would be suitable to put into the prison. But I bought a whole lot of Bibles. Mm-hmm. And I was very nervous because I took a risk putting Bibles into the prison.
Yeah.
So then we had to get proper shelves put up for the books. But I just prayed over these Bibles and put them all in amongst their Arabic stories. Mm-hmm. They love Shakespeare there. It's amazing. Huh. And you can get old books with Shakespeare. And so I got those books and the Bible, and I mixed the Bible in amongst all the books.
Ah, very good.
So then when we were leaving the prison one day, the guards were all saying, "Hey, Mrs. Angel," which is, they want the Bible. So I said, okay. So the next time I went back, we handed all the guards that wanted Bibles, we gave them the Book of Luke in Kurdish. So we were doing that.
Yeah, planting some more seeds. And then I understand that swimming became part of what you were doing in Iraq as well.
It did. I desperately wanted to have a swim, actually, to start off with, and somebody said, he knew where I could get a swim. It was in the city of Erbil. And they make ice at an iceworks, see. And they took me down to this iceworks, and there was a huge tank which apparently cools their system down, something to make ice. And so I was jumping in that tank to have a swim. But I had to be put in long pants and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd walk back along the street all dripping wet, but it didn't matter. I hadn't swim. And then I got involved with the doctors, and they then really wanted to learn how to swim. So in another town, they'd emptied, the pool didn't have any water in it there originally. I mean, they had pools and everything was lovely before Saddam attacked.
Yeah.
But they filled the pool particularly for me so that I could teach these doctors to swim.
So you were, again, instructing men, which is against the culture.
Yes.
Is that right?
And I had to get in the water with them, and because they were absolutely hopeless in the water. They would have drowned themselves. And so I couldn't believe it. Here I am teaching doctors in Iraq to swim.
Yeah.
So I've learned, you don't challenge God that he can't do anything.
That's right. And how did your time in Iraq come to an end? Well,
we're in the city of Erbil, which I said before, and we were staying near where the UN was, and the UN announced to us that we had to get out of our accommodation and come to their place that night because the city was being attacked by Saddam Hussein. So in tanks were rolling, and it was the most weird, lonely sort of place. All the guards that were out the front of everybody's houses had gone out, taken their guard uniform off and run away up the mountains. They were disappeared. So there was no law and order, and the shepherds were bringing their sheep in for protection, and we knew that it was serious. And then the UN said, "You'll have to come and stay the night with us." So that's what we did. And then very early the next morning they said, "You've got to grab things and go, and we'll escort you out." And we had no choice. We had to leave a lot of stuff behind. But we just had to do what the UN had told us to do. Yeah, but that was a very, very sad time. A lot of looting went on then because we had big storage places to try and feed people, and people were breaking into all the storage places and robbing things, and it was dreadful. But what I noticed in Iraq, it was beautiful when you're up the mountains and you watch the shepherds. And they don't drive their sheep. They walk in front of their sheep, and the sheep follow them. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, kind of like we're supposed to do following our shepherd, Jesus.
Yes, that's exactly right. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time. There's so much more that happened, but over 30 years later, that area has now rebuilt pretty much. Is that right?
Yes, it has, and I've seen photos, and they want me to come back, but I'm not going because I'm not really well enough to be able to cope with it. But I had one of the Arabic people that still lived there. He stayed there and survived. All our workers were evacuated out, all the Kurdish workers.
Yeah.
But one of them stayed, and when I contacted him, I said, "Is there any way I could come back?" And so I organised that, and I said, "Is there a hotel I could stay in?" And he emailed me back, and he said, "My house is your hotel, and my car is your taxi."
Oh.
So, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
They're beautiful people.
Well, we've run out of time, but we should say that you did go on to do ministry in an island just off of Bali called Lombok, and then also you went to Uganda and so much more that is in your book. But just kind of looking back on all of your adventures in ministry that all happened after you were 50, originally you were thinking, how could God use a swimmer? But as we have heard in your story, well, first off, you're much more than just a swimmer, but also God used the swimming too. Yeah,
he did. Yes. Amazing.
So just kind of summing up your experiences in ministry and how God has used you, what would you say is the lesson that you learned through it all?
I just say that, God does speak to us in different ways, but often it's a very still, small voice. And I personally get prompted with different things, and then almost disregard it. And then I go back and I think I must do that because I believe God is prompting me to do this when I'm trying to brush it aside. So I still, even against my own will, sometimes I will go and do what originally came up because I believe that God is leading that way. And that's the way God speaks. A lot of people challenge you when you can't hear God's voice, but he speaks in different ways, and we've got to be prepared to listen.
Yeah, and sometimes the evil one gets us to think, I'm nothing special. God can't use me. All I am is a swimmer or a janitor or whatever. But God says, no, whoever you are, you're significant.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Gloria Hardy, thank you so much for sharing your amazing adventures with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that was part 2 of my conversation with Gloria Hardy, who's the author of the book, The Master's Touch, about the many adventures she's gone on serving the Lord. Today, we've mainly focused on her time in northern Iraq, but this is just the first of many adventures she's gone on in many parts of the world. And Gloria says that some Bible verses that have really helped her can be found in the book of Proverbs, where it says, Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. And we've heard that this is how she lived her life, like when she was in northern Iraq and she heard bombs exploding and gunfire in the distance. She trusted the Lord and was given a special peace by God to get through it all. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Gloria Hardy's incredible stories. And until next time, I'm Eric Scadabo. So long, and God bless.
You've been listening to Real Faith, and if you have any questions or comments, you can send us a message through our website, realfaith.org.au. That's realfaith.org.au.
Real Faith is a production of Vision Christian Media.
This program is a production of Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, see vision.org.au.